What's up, guys? I'm SaltEMike, and this is your Star Citizen Week in Review for February 10th, 2025. So everything is changing, and it's kind of scary. Fight for Pyro Phase 2 is already here, and I'm done with it already. And 4.0.2 is in testing as well. All that and more on today's Week in Review. And as always, if this is your first week in review, this is where I take all of the official Star Citizen news each week, put it into one video, and share some of my opinions about it. I also live stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/SaltEMike. Stop by and say hi if you haven't yet. It's always awesome. But we have a lot to get through this week. And before we do, let me share with you today's sponsor. Thank you to Factor for sponsoring today's video. Factor is a meal delivery service that helps me save time, money, and stress, all while offering some really nice options right at my door. Factor takes the stress out of meal planning and sets you up for success. Skip the grocery stores, prep work, and cooking fatigue. They have over 35 meals to choose from per week, including options like keto, calorie smart, vegan, plus veggie, and more. A huge thing for myself and my family right now is saving money, and Factor helps us skip the overpriced takeout trap. Factor is cheaper and way more delicious. Get chef-crafted, restaurant-quality meals delivered right to you. They're ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes, which means more time for you. And speaking of that, Factor meals eliminate the hassle of prepping, cooking, or cleaning up. Simply heat and savor the good stuff. These meals have literally fueled me through some of my longer streaming sessions. Toss it in the microwave and just have a really enjoyable meal that, you know, I don't have to spend that much time off of camera for. Get 50% off and free shipping on your first Factor box using my link. Click the link in the description or scan the QR code with your phone. Every purchase helps me create more awesome videos like this one for you. And with that, thank you for engaging with the sponsors. So we got a lot to get to, so let's get into the patch notes. All right, starting out on Monday, not much to share here. It was simply a patch to fix some crashes people were having. Nothing for elevators, contested zones, missions, or the like. This seems to be on par for Monday patches so far since they have come back from break. Tuesday, though, this is simply moving all of the hotfixes to the live build, and we're back to just having one version of the game on our launcher. It's been a long time since we've had that. They also see a reduction in timeout errors that we've had launching into the game, but they're still there for sure. So is long loading times into Pyro. On Tuesday, very quickly, we had, I think to some people's surprise, Phase 2 hit those live servers, and this was a continuation of Phase 1 and is way more combat-focused across the board. Citizens for Prosperity had 2 missions, one where you had to retake your own outpost from, I think, the Frontier Fighters. This was easier of the 2 missions that are available if the enemy spawned. Now, remember how many issues I had on Fight for Pyro in the PTU. Phase 2, because of those issues, was significantly less tested, and there are more issues with it. Another was, or the next mission, is where you had to defend an MSR. This was way more challenging at times as a solo, depending on how many enemies spawned. Sometimes it was a ton, sometimes it was just a few. Headhunters, though, had 2 missions as well, and the first pits you against Frontier Fighters on the ground, where you are to just take them out. Becoming a theme here, right? This was pretty fun. Second, though, was kind of cool. You had to go to a Frontier Fighter asteroid base and destroy, their generators that were there. So a new thing, a new asset, kind of. I enjoyed this one a lot. It felt kind of fresh. And then Frontier Fighters also offered 2 mission types. They reused the same asteroid base location and asked you to destroy Headhunters or Citizens for Pyro servers. I can't remember which ones. I think it's Citizen for Pyro, or for Prosperity, I should say. Sometimes they would spawn on the ground, so like you would have to destroy the servers on the ground, like ground bases is what we mean there, not an asteroid base. If it was an asteroid base, it never spawned any enemies. This was the easiest mission to do out of all the missions in the entire event. And second was the opposite side of the CFP mission. You had to destroy their MSR. This was the hardest if you were on a starter account. I got lucky and found a constellation at one of the asteroid-based missions, and I stole it, and I used all their missiles. So if you're going for this, missiles are the way. And I think many, I think the part many, if you missed or weren't paying too much attention, was the journal entry if you completed this. This is spoilers, so spoiler warning here. Make sure you follow the what's above, and there'll be a chapter down below to skip past this if you don't want to know what's happening if you haven't finished it. But this is kind of the narrative CIG spoke so much about, but it's like hidden in the depths of the journal, which is kind of annoying. The Frontier Fighters are the slicers that we were fighting against in Save Stanton. They've been the slicers all along. I noticed it, that they were wearing the same armor as the slicers, but I thought it was just a bug, right? Because of CIG. I have no idea what happens if you went down the Frontier Fighter path, and like how stuck you are. So I talked to Elliot, and we are going to be able to resolve our hostility towards the other factions like CFP and Headhunters if you did go down the Frontier Fighters and you do not want to. But one of my org mates, he's still doing CFP missions, and they're still considered hostile to him. So don't know what it's going to take to get out of that hostility. It could be a bug, and that's why we're telling you, so you have the option to report it to CIG so they can get that working, because you didn't know what you were getting into when you joined the Frontier Fighters if you weren't kind of really attentive to what was going on. And I was really attentive to what was going on, and I thought it was a bug all along too. I hope to have a full guide for this on Tuesday or Wednesday again for you, so get subscribed for that. Then Friday, we had a 4.0.2 EVO Notes testing, and these are under NDA again. I'm not sure why they released I think we know it was for marketing, but this would still be good for marketing. So I don't know why they're covering it, and they didn't cover it then and they do now, but this is under EVO Notes NDA. Can't show it, but I can talk about it. Their testing focus is simple: to improve as many issues as possible, right? Improve connectivity, stability, and test the next event, and it's titled Supply or Die. They say this is essentially Jumptown, but in Pyro. I didn't take the time to find the locations because I actually didn't know where to find them, but now I know. It's just places called depots. You got to look on the planets to find them. They have more than one resource. So Jumptown was one resource, but the big money kind of maze-like Jumptown 1 is Datatrine, where missions were listed at paying millions of credits for a few SCU, up to 25 million for a large amount of SCU of this stuff. They also had similar missions for RMC and construction materials that pay way more than their value, and same for iron and copper. So many faucets in this game are like, it's crazy, but also so many facets of the game are all coming together, which highlights their goal for the year. More on that in the video updates section. For feature updates, they lowered how fast you can rotate, they say, using the dedicated tractor beam. But what I noticed is when you are moving a box, the box moves a bit slower. I tested this, and the character moves the same exact pace if you have a pistol in your hand or a beam in your hand. So I think it's the box that feels a little bit more weighty, and that likely achieves their goals, how they described it here. And then salvage ships, not just panels, should spawn more often around rest stops. Now, I'm not sure if this is meant for random ships to spawn there, or if they mean mission ships not despawning there. So we'll have to do some testing on that. And the rest are just general LOD fixes and ship performance and stability updates. So for bugs, there are a ton of possible fixes, and only time will tell if they nailed any of them. My elevators worked while I was playing, so who knows what's going on there. And then we also had a launcher update. This is a quick one. They updated the launcher and they fixed a few issues, but the feature update is kind of a big one. You can now manage more easily where you download and store the game versions. So that was all the patch stuff for the week. Let's jump into the monthly report. All right, we'll start out with AI content, and there isn't a ton to talk about here, but they want to add more bespoke kind of people that we interact with. One of them sounds like a mission giver, and the other ones were actually said to be air traffic controllers. And when you land at major locations, they want them to be more unique. We had that before. They want to really dive into that again, and I love the ones that we have in Pyro, so more of this would be cool. Animation, something I didn't notice when we initially reacted to this, is they are working on a new Copian, okay, but also various sizes of the Valakar. This means that they are going to not just give us the big boy that we saw at CitizenCon, but also potentially the babies and the, I guess, adolescents or adults, I forgot how they described them, in the images that we saw at CitizenCon. On top of that, they're working on animations for the Spec Ops set of AI that are intended to make PvE content more challenging. We have seen AI be more reactive, so this is actually worth doing now, which is, how many years have we talked about AI not being worth talking about? So that's kind of exciting. Character art, I think the big thing here is that stealth armor that we saw at CitizenCon is progressing, but it really doesn't mean much if the scan feature never makes it in. That was like the big benefit of it, right? And that's a feature, and we'll hear more about that later. Another thing I always like to see is that paint schemes are being worked on, which could be a monetization thing. And I would much rather them monetize ship paints and the other than ship regression. So. And next is core gameplay, and this was a tough one. Nearly nothing was added here. They were simply planning for the new year. A big update here was that they did the tech doc on the transit refactor and other important systems. But let's move on to video updates, where we kind of hear what to expect from the year, and it's a different one for sure. All right, and the only video updates that we had this week was a Star Citizen Live with Benoit Beauchezor, and it was 3 hours long. And many of the things discussed here were extremely important for many backers to hear. So link is in the description, but with that said, I broke down the discussion pretty heavily here to what I thought were the most pressing and important topics for the overall everyone to hear. A lot of people follow the news through this channel, and yeah, I want to keep it succinct and to what would be important to somebody who follows the project very closely, as well as somebody who doesn't, right? Let's start out with the most important topic, I think. CIG announced a major change in their development process this year, and I think Jared broke it down better than anyone could.
If patches are going to keep coming no matter what, then what's actually changing this year? So like everything else in Star Citizen, I'm certain this too will continue to expand and mature as we move throughout the year. But in its simplest terms, what this means is pulling engineers and programmers off of a lot of the new fancy feature work they've always been on and putting them on less sexy but more quality of life driven efforts like rebuilding elevators and transit to better work with the realities of server meshing, fixing issues where your hangar eats your ship and your cargo disappears, finally introducing some version of unique item recovery as quickly and as efficiently as we can, and much more. It means a greater focus on refining the gameplay that's already there in the persistent universe, and less time spent on continuously introducing the instability of a multitude of brand new features every 3 months or so. It also means a new content and gameplay delivery schedule intricately tied to the introduction of new ongoing story narratives for the persistent universe that allow you as players to reshape the galaxy around you, beginning with 401. Within the faction warfare that will change Pyro by the end of this year. So what? No more new features? No. It just means that we're going to continue to work on new gameplay like resource network, crafting, and base building in the background, and do it slower, more deliberately, and with more time to cook. It means these new features not coming out as quickly as originally planned, because the same super talented engineers and programmers that used to be working on those will now be focused on fixing what's essentially already there first. And when these new features are ready to do so, they'll go into expanded, dedicated tech preview testing instead of the PU to ensure their functionality and stability.
I think this is absolutely the right thing to do. I think many people seem to miss the most important aspect here. Yes, people are coming off major features, but that doesn't mean they aren't being worked on at all, or that they won't end up in our hands at some point. It just means that when they do, they should be less trash, hopefully, if they actually live by these words, which many of us are skeptical that they will, so we'll have to see. But many of you might feel nervous about this decision, and like, is this the right thing to do? Will it work? Well, you aren't the only one that feels that way.
I'm excited and I'm scared at the same moment, if I'm being completely honest, because we've never seen what a content-driven, stability-focused year of Star Citizen is like. It's going to be different. And like anything else with Star Citizen, it's going to change and evolve over the year, because somebody will have an idea in April and we'll tweak this, and somebody will have another idea in June and we'll tweak this. So all we know is that it's going to be different. It's going to be different, hopefully better, but it's not what we've done before.
But what's scary is that, how did Jens frame this for us? He said that the stability and performance heightens hunger for new content and new features, right? And that's the part that's scary. That if we do achieve what we're set to achieve, we're going to need features as well, right? And
when
so
we get to that point, then everybody's going to turn and it's like, there's nothing to do now. It's
the sushi restaurant analogy, right?
Yeah.
But it just has to be done. And the reason why it's time to do this is because we all, like Chris said it in his letter, that's the part that resonated the most to me, is like, we all acknowledge that if the game that we have now functioned the way it's supposed to, it'd be a great game.
Now, I don't agree with Benoit on the game aspect, and that isn't what CR said. He said experience, I think, which is more fitting for the current way that Star Citizen is, but even CIG recognized how much of a gamble this is. But I think their back is against the wall at this point. The game is so far beyond playable that something had to give. And, well, what does this mean for the video content then?
With this next evolution of Star Citizen's development meaning a more content-driven in-universe experience, and with big feature work taking a back seat to fixing what's already there and then moving into the public tech preview development environment once it's ready farther down the line, so too must our weekly video offerings change. And to preserve that discovery of new story, to evade spoiling the outcome of new content, and to avoid doing 5 weeks of consecutive shows that all basically say, every engineer is working on elevators in transit right now, we're making changes to the weekly ISC and SCL content and cadence. So like everything else that continues to evolve and change as the year goes on, we'll be bringing Inside Star Citizen and Star Citizen Live together on Thursdays. We're going to be adding a new Behind the Ship series and alternating between them as the stories we want to tell each week demands.
Totally understandable, and I think this could really find a nice balance. Now, I hope what we get is more consistent shows each week, because 5 weeks of consecutive shows is way better than 4 weeks of consecutive shows off, which really hurt my excitement around the project towards the end of the year. And I look forward to every Thursday each week. So even if it was 5 consecutive weeks of them telling us that people were working on bug fixes, I would still look forward to it, right? Okay, so what have they done for us lately? How did 4.0.1 go in their opinion?
401 did not solve all the problems.
No.
Is it a legitimate improvement over 4.0?
In many areas, it's a drastic change, yes. Especially for the issues that affected a lot of players during the break. If you played during the break on 4.0 preview, like a lot of very dramatic problems have been solved in 401. Or hotfix, right? Because the 401 also includes all the hotfix from 4.0. So it is fundamentally, a better patch, but it regressed in key areas that are very problematic.
Yes, I'm looking at a chat right now.
Very
drastic.
Yeah.
With
yes,
with a lot of emoji.
From the observability standpoint, right? Not from the. I think that in terms of the forward-facing elements of the patch, we have regressed in 401, but from the infrastructure level, we have actually made a step forward, and so it's a 50-50 one.
It's a 2 step forward, 1 step back kind of thing?
I would say so, yeah.
And the 1 step back just happens to be the part that the players see?
Correct.
Now, I left this clip in because instead of giving us a lot of BS, they recognize that even though this is the first patch of this attempted new development, they basically did fix the most pressing issue for people, not being able to log in, but not all the most pressing ones. This is how this year will go, one thing at a time, probably. So they're kind of setting the page for us there. How do they plan on tackling one of the biggest issues of this year, though? Transit.
Again, in the interest of self-healing for these systems, right? It's about, let's not just work at preventing the condition, let's also work at what if it happens anyway, right? We need to do aggressive cleanup to keep the system working. Like the hangars, the elevators, the hangar doors, the ATC systems are all part, in my mind, of what I call the traversal of the game, right? And bugs that affect the traversal of the game, that prevent you from going to your ship and leaving, or entering in and refueling, they are of the utmost priority, right? They have to be solved, because if that doesn't work, then the game doesn't work. They're critical.
Now, I like the idea that they want the code to be able to like heal itself. It kind of sounds wild and out there, but it really isn't at all that crazy, I don't think. He went into more detail about this, but this kind of stuff is what they want to do for a lot of the things that we experience, and that is way more future-proof than what they've currently been doing, so I guess it sounds good if you can pull it off. Next, he explained what happened to our contested zone loot, and it's not really funny.
A lot of people have reported losing items, for example, from CZs that were acquired in CZs. That's, you know, at that point, it wasn't even a system issue. It was really, those items were flagged to auto-destroy, basically. And so some players looted armor and were like, you know, started using those armors, and then when the conditions met for the auto-bury, those items disappeared, right? I almost lost this one. And so that was a bad setup, right? And so now I know that a lot of those items have been retagged, right? And so the auto policy will not apply to them, or not if they're attended. Again, it's all about, you know, making sure that the right tags are on them. So that explains some of the inventory things.
So they literally just like didn't set it up right. The code isn't just bugged, right? But as Benoit recognized quite a bit during the show, their processes on how they do things are bugged, right? And this wasn't a good way to start. But if they put something in place to ensure this doesn't happen again, then that would be nice. But, you know, it's 2025. Like, enough of the oversights and not paying attention to really important things. That one frustrated me. I'm not gonna lie. And I avoided CZs, but just to see how many people lost stuff is really demoralizing. The mission refactor issues were the next topic.
One of the things that we have not tackled with the refactor is how missions are built. We have not provided this team with the right tools to build compelling missions. They are dealing with an archaic scripting system that dates back to a previous era that we are just about to finish modernizing by replacing, to give these guys modern tools and modern approaches. And so we have started the engineering work with the new StarScript Foundation to rethink how missions are made from the get-go, to give, you know, Elliot, Nick, James, and all these mission designers the right tools so that they're not bogged down with details. If you saw the way they make missions now, it's like involved, right? And we want to make sure that these guys focus on the flow and not on the functionality they have to build, so that programmers can support that content. So when we're talking about this change of focus, you know, we're saying, oh, we're going to deprioritize features. We're also going to prioritize features for content as well, right? So that they can make content that's fun and reliable, so that missions that have been notoriously problematic, or events that have been notoriously problematic, become fun and reliable, right? And that's what we really want to do.
Okay, so they're going to help and give them the support. That is awesome. But the end, to me, is the biggest. They're going to prioritize features. So we're still getting features, as I said in the beginning, but for the content they want to make. So I'm going to make some guesses here, and I'm going to speculate here. This could be things like hacking, potentially, so they can sell that ship. That ship is what they consider content, right? Or mining and salvage, getting updates to do some mission content they want to do, or new armor, or new maybe weapons, or new vehicles to fight the Valakar. It all depends on what they want to prioritize. This makes me really curious if the roadmap update is still going to share those priorities for the patches ahead, or at least the patch coming ahead. And the last one is about the future of mission payouts.
You screwed up mission sharing and the payouts, and it's miserable and it's terrible now.
Well, so there was a bug that caused everybody in a given mission to get the reward for the missions, right? So that means if a mission payout was 10K, then everybody would get 10K, everybody participating.
It was amazing.
Well, so
I loved it when that.
So the funny bit is, I talked to Rich Tyler about it, and he's like, I couldn't catch it before they fixed it. That's what I want. And so ultimately, it wasn't exactly what we wanted, but that's the direction we want to go in. We want to encourage you guys to play together. And so having those rewards divided is kind of a counterpoint, right? To get people to play together. Like, why group with you if I'm going to get half the payout, right? And so The thing is, like, the system doesn't work the way we want it to do. So the fix did go through, right? Because it was an easy fix and we had the right persons in place to do it. But that's not where we want this to be. We do want to improve that.
Now this one I'm completely lost on. I'm just going to be honest. I will let them cook. And as I've always said with the economy team, they seem to be doing some weird stuff. But if we can share missions with each other and just share the rewards, which currently is really only the money, this is insane when it factors into the current payouts that we get for really any minor experiences like cargo hauling or bounties, right? They did say they wanted it to be different, but they didn't state how. But I know people were farming contested zones while other members of their party literally printed money for them. This can't be the intention that they're going for, so we would need to hear more details on that. Then for quick hits, these are all the things that I didn't cut out, and I'm just going to list them out. They are systemically going through all the systems in the game, and if they feel they need to completely rewrite that system, they're going to do that instead of band-aiding it. A la the transit system. Verbally, they learn their lesson, but if these rewrites take too long, how long will that affect that decision making and when they'll give up on that, right? One of those systems sounds like long-term persistence. Ever lose a ship that you bought in game? This certainly is a priority, and their goal is really to have this system to work, but they have to hotfix it in the meantime. It's not going to happen right away, basically. Even more on this, unique item recovery is going to have an inside Star Citizen next week, and they will give proper details for us, so we might get to use our sub-items without having to worry about losing them. I know a lot of you guys feel strongly about that. They are going to more of a flex model for Squadron 42 versus Star Citizen developers. They're going to bounce people back and forth when needed. They've been doing this for a while, actually, but only at the end of the phase for that content or feature to like kind of go live. And yeah, I mentioned this in the React. You saw at CitizenCon, Twitter and Twitch. Ian, he's a flex guy, right? He's everywhere. He's a huge Star Citizen, not just developer, but he's part of our community so strongly right now, right? He's so passionate. So you see him everywhere. He's a flex guy. He bounces between both projects. So that's kind of cool. And, you know, so I kind of knew this was happening before. Sounds like they like the way that's going and they want to do more of it. They are preparing for some weekly/daily or whatever makes sense for them downtime for the servers. Every player in the community feels like this would be a good thing. Prison is a mess because it's a very old mission on incredibly old, archaic mission logic. And yeah, that was a mess, and they're confident that they have a reliable fix for it. Like, they were super confident about it. We'll see. They want to fix issues around the issue council as well. And if you watch this live, they are being made aware of the botting on the issue council. Error codes are going to get updates, so we know better why we're crashing and things like that. So that was the video updates. That was the 3-hour episode. I'm sure I missed something. Leave a comment down below if there was something mega important to you that I missed. But he did go into detail on a lot of bugs, why they happen, and how they're going to fix them. But I think the more pressing issue and the thing I wanted to stick out in your mind is that bug fixing is their focus. Features are not as much of their focus, but they still are. So with that, let's move on to other updates. All right, and as always, we'll start out with a sneak peek, and oh man, this one is exciting. Another Hornet. Jokes aside, though, it looks like the new Super Hornet Mark II that we kind of knew was coming. It also is speculated that this is the Heartseeker paint on it, so you can kind of guess that it'll probably be released pretty soon whenever they do their Koromor celebrations, which is the Valentine's Day celebration in the Star Citizen universe. And speaking of that, the subscriber promo is all Valentine's themed as well. The $10 sub items are the 2 heart-shaped pillows, which continues with the insane lack of value that sub level provides. It's really frustrating to me because that's the sub level I'm at. And then the $20 sub gives you those pillows and the couch to put them on. And with the sense that base building is probably not coming this year, at least not on live, but maybe in a preview, items like this instantly become less interesting or appealing as well. But you know, they probably had planned it out for a while. There's also a Heartseeker paint themed bed on the store for $10, which again would be cool if we had any use for them in the next 12 months. And lastly, the most unfortunately placed setup for this furniture shows the full package with all the items for about $20. So yeah, and then They put up a bug thread during Benoit's interview. Xylo posted this on Spectrum, and they asked us to list out the most pressing issues that we as players are having to help prioritize where they spend their time fixing. The obvious one is the transit system, but I threw my hat in the ring and upvoted and commented below the original post about the inventory system. That has basically ruined as many play sessions as transit has for me over the years, and on top of that, basic functionality is not quality of life. It is essential at this point that we get Star Citizen's inventory and other aspects of the game to an acceptable level, which seems like on brand with their goals this year. It's just, we got to understand their wording a little bit. Is it just bug fixing, or is it also just generally the bad experiences that we have in the game, right? Link for this thread is down below. If you have a Star Citizen account, whether you play or not, this really should be something that you participate in if you have the time. And then for dev posts, the Red Festival update. So I was right 2 weeks ago, I think. I misread this post that said, turn in the envelopes and that's how you get them. I assumed that they meant I had to, but yeah, we got some clarification on Spectrum. Like we said a couple weeks ago, all you have to do is log in during the event and you'll get the envelope for next year or sometime this year. And then cargo labels. So people asked on Spectrum about an issue when you have two of the same commodity in a cargo mission that are going to different places. Sometimes you can't complete the missions because you don't know which box goes where, especially if they're the same size. Elliot had a quick back and forth with the community on this one, but his summary post is probably the best one here. All cargo is linked only to the mission location, and they really don't have the proper labeling, and they let us know that they want to do this. And yeah, so under where it says contracted, they want us to see the location that it's meant to go. I wonder if this would enable players to finish failed missions and get the reward for returning lost cargo, like Death Stranding or something. That would be pretty cool. And then time to complete Fight for Pyro. How much time do we have left? People on Spectrum were concerned about the time they might have to finish the event, probably because they moved so quickly into Phase 2, and Niku popped in to let us know that we have a few weeks. And what we now know is that they're going to be doing these monthly patches, so we probably have until the beginning of March. And that's all I got for you this week. It's a lot happened. Let me know what you guys think. Are you confident? Are you feeling good? Or are you feeling iffy? Or are you feeling like me? You gotta walk the walk. You gotta walk the walk. I'm sick of the talk, right? And I've been saying that for years. So it is meaningful because I think the talk is going in the right direction. But I thought that last year too. So it really comes down to their execution. And so far their execution hasn't been all that good, but we've only got 4.0.1. Let's see how the .2 goes. Let's see how the next couple patches go. But it's got to improve, and it's got to improve pretty quickly. They got to nail some of these really big ones first, and then they can, you know, if we're able to get in the game and enjoy it even a little bit, or get back to the level of bugginess that we're used to and not this insane level, then yeah, they could start doing some more fun stuff, and the game will just generally be more fun, but we'll have to see. So anyway, leave a like, leave a comment down below, and yeah, subscribe if you guys are enjoying the Weeks in Review as much as I'm enjoying making them. It's just something that I put together every week, and every week when I post it, your comments and how much you have enjoyed them have really helped keep me going, because it can be tough to put these together, especially when you have a 3-hour SCL. So leave a like for that one, and I will catch you guys next week.